Tonight, we are gathered to induct Jim Blagg, Natasha Miller-Jackson, and Tim Worrell into the Biola University Hall of Fame. In doing so, we celebrate their achievements, but even more, we recognize the work ethic, the sacrifice, and the toughness that allowed them to become so good. Anyone who has coached for a number of years has a special appreciation for and a relationship with a few select players. The bond is created because these players understood in a deep way that the urgency of sport and that their college career would last such a brief period of time and end at an early age. Knowing this, they were able to maximize their talents. And in doing so, they raised the intensity level of the entire team. What I have just described is obviously reflective of Jim Blagg, Natasha Miller-Jackson, and Tim Worrell. They represent the best of the best in our rich athletic history. And that is why the selection process this year was such an easy one. In a few minutes, the respective coach of each individual will talk about their former athlete. So I want to talk about what makes the coach-player relationship so special, and then I will share a little bit about each coach. The relationship between coach and player can be of such depth because they have shared memories that do not fade with time. A good coach will remember events and experiences from 30 years ago as though they occurred yesterday. In fact, I just had that experience with Matt at the table. We were talking about something. For the great player, the one who sacrificed so much to be good, the memories of the coach are especially significant. This is true because the good coach understands more than anyone, even the player's teammates, what was involved in his or her accomplishments. The coach knows that the effort and sacrifice expended by that athlete should not be treated lightly. The good coach stands as a repository of all the memories. By the value he places on those memories, he honors and safeguards their keeping. For some, this may sound exaggerated. After all, aren't we just talking about a game? But they don't understand. For the coach and great athlete, their relationship involves more than games that were played at some point in time. Because we are people of memory, and because the memories between a coach and a great player are so special and only become more meaningful with the passage of time, their lives will always be intertwined. Since this relationship is so important, it is only proper that I take a few moments to talk about the presenters tonight, the three people who coached our inductees. Matt Orr coached our wrestling team from 1972 to 1987, and our men's soccer team from 1987 to 2001. He was a hard-nosed coach who pushed his athletes to get in great shape and produced a number of fine teams. He was very concerned about the spiritual development of his players and cared deeply about their overall development. And I might say that he loves Biola. He's had 5 kids go through here and lives across the street. Nobody's more attached to the school than Matt. Jonathan Zimmerman became our men's and women's track and cross-country coach in 2006. His first year, he had a combined track team of 15 athletes. Since that time, through hard work and dedication, he has grown the program to approximately 70 athletes. He has recruited the right kind of people, nurtured their athletic and spiritual development, and built a program that is known not only for its athletic prowess, but also for its spirit, its sense of spirit and camaraderie. Charlie Sarver was the baseball coach from 1967 to 1990 and the athletic director for many of those years. He was a Heisman Trophy candidate as a running back for UC Berkeley. Imagine being that good. And he's still, what's even more impressive to me, he's still playing. I called the other day to talk to him. He was out at softball practice. So he's still playing senior league. He is also one of the most humble and kind people I have ever known. He produced many excellent baseball players, including Tim and his brother Todd, and set a wonderful example for all his players of what it means to be a Christian. As we honor the athletes tonight, we also honor this university. I think everyone here would agree that this is a great place. When I was hired in 1978, I knew that I was blessed, and that feeling continued to grow each year. To coach at Biola or to compete as an athlete is a great privilege. There are times when we might forget that or take it for granted. We may temporarily get caught up in focusing on this or that need or resource. But in the end, those concerns are very secondary, because when it comes to what matters most in life, this place is very hard to beat. Jim, Natasha, and Tim made great contributions to our athletic program, but I'm sure they would be the first to agree that the university made a great contribution to their lives. Through the influence of Bible classes, chapels, Christian friends across campus, Christian teammates, and Christian coaches, their lives were impacted in profound ways. We are here tonight to celebrate the accomplishments of our 3 inductees. But in a broader sense, we are here to celebrate what it means to be a Christian athlete, a Christian teammate, and what it means to honor God in all that we do. It is wonderful to celebrate tonight with Jim, Natasha, and Tim because they model and reflect all that it means to be a truly successful Biola student athlete. On behalf of the university and our athletic department, I want to express our congratulations and our deep appreciation to Jim, to Natasha, and to Tim. It is our great honor to welcome you into the Biola Athletic Hall of Fame. We hope that this evening will be very meaningful for you. Thanks. Matt Orr will make our first induction. Thank you.
It is my privilege to introduce Jim Blagg. He wrestled for Biola in the years of 1974 to 1978. Following graduation, Jim began teaching in 1979 at South High School in Pueblo, Colorado. He taught for 2 years and coached wrestling for 5. Recently, he was honored at the South High Wrestling Reunion and will be included in the South Colt Wrestling History Wall of Fame at the school. After South, he taught at middle school level for 13 years, where he was also a Fellowship of Christian Athletes sponsor, and currently he is teaching physical education at Belmont Elementary, where he has been for 20 years. In August, he and his wife Karen celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary. Karen is a bookkeeper for her family's business and is also in the children's ministry director at Calvary Church in Pueblo. Jim has served as an elder at Calvary and various other ministries through the years. His hobbies are hunting and more hunting. He enjoys outdoors as well as antiques, creating unique wooden frames and creations for others. Jim and Karen have 3 daughters. Rebecca, age 23, is a graduate of Colorado State University Pueblo and is currently in massage therapy school. She lives in Cheyenne, Wyoming with her husband Justin, who is a former CSU wrestler and a 3rd-year medical student. Hannah, 21, is a senior at CSU and is following in her dad's footsteps to become a physical education teacher. Laura, 14, is a freshman in high school and plays on her school's volleyball team. Would you guys stand, Jim's family? Would you stand and be recognized? Jim's collegiate record was 114 wins, 25 losses, and 2 ties. He was a 2-time All-American, winning the NAIA National Wrestling Championship in 1978. He was NCCAA National Finalist in 1976 and a national champion in 1978. Jim was the 3-time Biola Invitational Wrestling Tournament champion and was selected as the most valuable wrestler of the tournament in 1976 and 77. The Biola Invitational Wrestling Tournament was ranked by Amateur Wrestling News as the top tournament on the West Coast. It included top-ranked Division I wrestling programs, Cal Poly SLO, Arizona State University, and the current Division II national champions, Cal State University, Bakersfield. Division I Fresno State University, Cal State University, Fullerton, and Cal State University of Long Beach. Jim was 4-time most valuable wrestler for Biola Wrestling. His teams included teammates California State High School champion Paul Wilson, who had over 100 career wins at Biola, NAIA national finalist Tony Ippolito, and 2-time All-American Pat Sheridan. Jim was selected by the athletic department as the Al Barber Award winner for being the most outstanding senior athlete. Jim finished his 4 years career placing 1st through 3rd in 20 wrestling tournaments. Jim ended his career ranked by Amateur Wrestling News as one of the top wrestlers in the nation in all divisions and qualified 2nd in the U.S. Olympic trials. As Jim joins the Biola Athletic Hall of Fame, he follows in the footsteps of his dad, who was inducted into the Colorado College Sports Hall of Fame. 2 of Jim's teammates who wrestled with him for 4 years have this to say about him. When I accepted a scholarship to wrestle at Biola, I was informed that a Colorado high school state champ was also coming in as a freshman. Little did I know the blessing this would ultimately be in my life. I could count on one hand the times I was able to take Jim down and still have some fingers left over. He was everything promised as a wrestler. What I came to learn over the 4 years we were teammates and friends was that he was even a better man. From the road trips to the wrestling gospel team to cutting weight, I was able to observe strong character and commitment alongside a gracious spirit. Yes, Jim made me a better wrestler, but for knowing him, I am a better man. Teammate Bob Thomas. I have so many memories about the time spent with Jim as part of the wrestling team. First and foremost, I remember Jim being a godly man and incredibly humble. His Clark Kent glasses hid his true identity. He was Superman. Teammate Richard Croyd. Several of Jim's teammates have come here. Would you guys stand and be recognized? Wrestlers. Jim, you could have wrestled at any college in the nation. It was a great day for Biola and myself when you committed to Biola Wrestling. You have always made me feel worthy as a coach and never allowed any circumstance you faced to hinder your excellence. It was a privilege to coach you, Jim. It is my honor tonight to present to you Jim Blagg, Biola University Hall of Fame 2013.
Thank you, Coach. I feel like I need to explain a little bit about this guy before I begin. But I don't know if any of you guys remember the movie The Pink Panther. In it, Peter Sellers, or it was Inspector Clouseau, had a little guy that worked for him named Cato. They were always going at each other in the house, or hiding from each other. Cato would hide and then jump out, and Peter Sellers. Anyway, Paul and I were roommates, and we'd seen the movie, and Paul had a little guy, Jack-in-the-Box figure, and we turned him into Cato. And so for the last 35 years, we've been sending this guy back and forth to each other. I'd open a box of, or a carton of ice cream, and he'd be sitting on the top of it, and I'd go, oh, he got me. And, you'd find him in your shoe, and Paul said you'd find him up under the bunk, underneath the top bunks when he got into bed, he'd be there. But I hollowed out a book and put him in there and sent it to Paul. And so anyway, we've been doing that for the last, like I said, 35 years. But that's where this came from tonight, as a result. So, but thank you for the honor of being part of the Biola's Hall of Fame. When I was thinking back over the time I wrestled here at Biola, two things stood out for me, and one of them was the relationships that were formed, and the other was Biola's continued commitment to biblical values. It's an honor for me to be able to say I was a part of Biola, and again, it's because of Biola's commitment that they've stayed true to biblical values, the strong foundation and the history of building on those biblical principles. It's an honor, again, to be able to say that I went to Biola. For those of you that have worked here, taught here at Biola, and continue to do that, thank you. Thank you for impacting our lives. The Lord used wrestling more than anything else in my life when I was here at Biola. When I first came out as a freshman, I hadn't planned on wrestling, but then eventually changed my mind and went and wrestled. Coach's philosophy, as was stated earlier, was more than just to make us good wrestlers. His goal was to disciple us to be godly men. He wanted Christ to be part of our wrestling. He didn't want us to go out and leave Christ at the side of the mat and then go out and wrestle our match and then come back, pick him up as we headed back to the bench after the mat. But he wanted Christ to show on our matches, show on our wrestling. And Coach, I thank you for that. And Pat, thank you for you guys for your love for the Lord, and you're modeling that in your lives. And thank you for being part of our lives, opening up your home to us, and helping us to be the men that God has desired and designed us to be. Thanks. To all the teammates that are here tonight, thank you for taking the time to come. I think back often the time here at Biola, and those times we talked a little bit about this afternoon, but out here at the Olive Garden, Coach used to have us running the old hill out there, that sweaty wrestling room. And I know Steve and Rich would be out there. Coach would have a Tuesday, Thursday weightlifting class that we needed to go to early morning. He'd have us do a mile warm up, and it seemed like that mile run, it was supposed to be a warm up, but often it'd end up being a race. Every day you do that. But those are the memories. For the spring camping and rafting trips, and then coming over to your guys' house on Tuesday nights and discipling us. Thank you again. And some of the matches I remember the most weren't matches that involved me, but were involved some of the other guys on the team. I remember Paul Wilson and Don Zeller were at Long Beach State in the finals of the Biola Invitational. Just the intensity of that match and the excitement in the gym that night, it was a treat, one that I'll remember. Bob Thomas, for 4 years, wrestled here at Biola, and then to see him win the Christian Nationals back in Kankakee, Illinois was a special time. Tony Eppolito, the committee is aware of Tony's accomplishments, but one of the things that was unique about Tony was his last name, is Tony Eppolito. Except when he first came out, as a freshman, we just began to realize that when it came time for a tournament, they would call you up, that it was your turn to wrestle that. And the announcers always have trouble with Tony's last name. So the team always seemed to focus and just say, I wonder how the announcer's going to pronounce your name this time. But, it became Ippolippo or Ippolipio. And so then anyway, I could go on with the memories of being here at Biola, the different times, both in wrestling and then just the 4 years or 5 years I was here. And so I was blessed and grateful to have been here to be here at Biola. And again, I thank you for being able to be part of Biola Athletics. So thank you, guys.
I'm gonna shake his hand, but he might give me a wrestling move or something. You know, much involved with viewing athletes or viewing athletics is it's like looking at an iceberg. You know, you're just seeing the top and you're not really seeing everything that's underneath. It's kind of nice to talk to an educated group of people here about athletics, and they kind of get the whole picture as Coach Holmquist started out the evening with. So when you look at Natasha and you look at me, we look a little bit alike. You know, I'm from where it snows, and she's from where it snows. And I used to high jump, and she high jumps, and I own a pair of roller skates, and she owns a pair of roller skates. So on the surface, we look a lot alike. But now let's kind of get a real look at the iceberg here as we get to look a little deeper, okay? Natasha competed here 2007 to 2011. I was quickly informed, or not quickly, but I was informed eventually that Natasha is Natasha, is the correct pronunciation for that. I'm trying to remember that, okay? What a treat. What a neat experience. I believe that I was having some phone calls, recruiting phone calls with her when I was at an indoor national from the year before, so I was actually not around here. And my wife is so happy I have my cell phone so I can make those calls to Canada on my cell phone to recruit Natasha. But anyway, what a list. It's something, too, where you think about it. As a coach, you really don't, I didn't really keep track of it all until it was all done. And we were just talking the other day, and you're a 24-time All-American, and she goes, oh, really? And it's like, you know, you just do what you do, and you do it well, and it is what it is. It's not something where we really kept track of that. So Natasha, you know, it's a long list of things. You know, she's a 24-time All-American, a 12-time national champion, 2 times a runner-up at the Nationals. She was the indoor NAIA track and field MVP in 2009, 10, the most outstanding in 2011. Outdoor track and field, she was the most valuable in 2009, 10, and 11 for the outdoor nationals. For some of you, we're the sport where everything is done in metrics, okay? I'm sure your weight class was in pounds, not, you know, right, kilograms. So it was nice with Natasha coming in from Canada. She understood that way better than I did. You know, her high jump record at Biola is 1.83. You know, so it's not 1 foot 83. It's 1.83 meters. So it's like it took me a little while to get that figured out. She was very good at it. She helped me with that a lot. Anyway, she's a 2-time NAIA record holder right now. She holds the pentathlon record and the indoor high jump in the pent. First off, some of you, let's see if you know what the pentathlon is. The pentathlon is how many events? 5. The first event is the 60 hurdles, followed by the high jump, followed by the shot put, followed by the long jump, followed by her favorite event, the 800. Okay? So that's a pentathlon. She's a 3-time national champion in the pentathlon 3 years in a row. First female that's ever done that. Outdoor, she's a 3-time heptathlon champion. The heptathlon is how many events? 7. Okay, on the first day you do what? The 100 hurdles, followed by the high jump, followed by the shot put, followed by the 200. You do other events on the side, but those are the 4 for that. The next day you start the day with the long jump, throw the javelin, and run your favorite event, the 800, okay? And you know, Natasha did not come in having expertise in all those. She had to struggle with the learning curve of learning how to throw the shot and the javelin and loving the 800 and learning how to high jump. And so she brought some things with her, but she was willing and very driven to learn the other events. It was just amazing to watch. She's got great kinesthetic awareness. great vision, great ability to compete well at a high level when it's time to do that. She holds not just the 2 NAIA records, but she holds or is a part of 15 track records at Biola. She's a 12-time All-GSAC athlete and 8-time GSAC champion. In addition, she was the 2011 Outdoor Champions of Character Award winner. She was a 2010 and 11 GSAC and NAIA Scholar Athlete, and a 2011 Capital One Academic All-District First Team Scholar. So it's somebody who's had the complete package, was the athlete and was the student, and did so very well. We're really just thankful, I'm sure I'm speaking for Natasha too, that we had the opportunity to compete outside of just the GSAC and just the NAIA. It was one of those things where you could take an athlete to the level they should go to. So during her 4 years here, she competed at the University of Nebraska at the Devaney Indoor Center. She competed at Arizona State University, and she competed up at the indoor at UW, University of Washington, up there. In her last 2 years of doing the multi here, there were only 2 college athletes that came in ahead of her. One of them was the NC2A champion from the University of Oregon, and the other one was the Big Ten champion from Nebraska. Those were the only 2 athletes that came in ahead of her in a multi-event or a combined event in her last 2 years. Another thing, just a couple more things. One would be, every time she was involved with the Pent or the HEP, she was also doing additional events for the team and for team scoring. So she could do the 7 events of the HEP and still do the 100 hurdles or the open high jump or the triple jump or whatever. So she was a very busy person. One of those people that spent more time down on the track than up in the campsite. And so when she spent all that time down on the field and she got to have a lot of interaction with other athletes, with the starters, with the officials, she was just a wonderful ambassador in that regard. One of the gentlemen that started, it was his last meet of being a starter. He had been the starter for the NAIA at national championships for 30 straight years. He was retiring, and he was just so impressed. You know, back in the day, gentlemen, back in the day, if you wore a hat, you would maybe tip your hat to a lady as they came by. Back in the day, the starter, Ken Graber, in his last meet, gave his hat to Natasha as just out of great respect. And so, you know, often she's received the shell from the gun. So if the starter shoots the gun, you win the race. They save the shell and give it to you as a little memento. And it was just amazing that Ken Graber would give his hat to Natasha just out of the great respect of how she did it well. She competed well, with great sportsmanship, with great attitude, with great Christian love for the people she was going against, but just brought the best she could. So it's just, I want to thank David. Hello, David. I know you're leaving soon. Jackie, brother Dan, husband Aaron, thanks for coming. And I'm just very proud to represent you. Natasha, come on up as we induct you and welcome you to the class of 2013 Biola Hall of Fame. Good? How about you? Right there. Good? All right, there you go. Yeah, good kid. There's just a lot of, when you're way down there and I'm way up there and she's way down there, there's just a lot of communication that happens when you just look at each other, because you can't really say it all the time. But go ahead, you're up, all right?
I just want to say thank you so much. There's so many people here that have contributed to my time here, and that I've learned so much from. I've just had so much opportunity through this place and so much growth. like my teammates. You guys are my family, and I love you. You know, we'll always be family, and it's gonna last forever. And just the times that we got to spend together was so amazing. And Coach, thank you so much for the opportunities you gave me. You talked about how, you know, we were able, just you and me, to go to, you know, other meets. Just you gave me so many extra opportunities that you didn't have to. And those are just, I learned so much from those opportunities and the bigger challenge, and it really pushed me. And thank you for the way that you coached me. You're always so supportive. And you gave me room to grow and be the athlete that I needed to be. And I want to thank my parents for making, you know, this whole thing possible. They've supported me. My mom came to every single big event that she could possibly come to, and my dad too. And you guys have always been so supportive of me. And yeah, it's overwhelming. I learned so much while I was here, and just like Jim was talking about, like God taught me so much through my sport, through track and field. And the people I encountered, and even other coaches and other competitors. And you know, there's something about even our conference here in NAIA it seems like a close-knit conference, and at least when I competed here, and we were able to make lasting relationships even with our biggest rivals like Azusa, and you know. But some of my other closest friends, other heptathletes, are on different teams as well. So it was just an amazing opportunity to, you know, learn how to really love God through loving the people that He placed in my life. And I want to thank everyone at Biola too for the opportunities and the support that you've all shown me. So, thank you.
My first comment is going to be, wow. Now, why in the devil would I use that? Well, let me tell you a little story. Way back in the years gone past, and I won't say the year because that would embarrass what it is that you're looking at. I'm only 39 one more time. And as long as I can stay 39, I'll be alive. Wow to me began way back in 1936. And what was that? Yep, wow. That wow was looking at my dad. He was a baseball player, infielder, and a pitcher. And so just one day, I'm there, my first experience. I see a ground ball to the shortstop. He's a shortstop and a pitcher. And he picks the ball up and throws a bullet to first base. And I say, wow. On the mound, he was pitching. And way back in those early days, a story about him, that he was pitching against the St. Louis Cardinals, summer league, whatnot. And he was pitching on a farm team. And Dad pitched so well that St. Louis Cardinals offered him a contract. And Don, my dad, refused the contract because he could make more money doing what he was doing than he could playing baseball. But he had that kind of talent, and that wow has stood with me throughout my career. And every time something perfect happens, I don't care what it is, I say, wow. And I've said a lot of wows in my lifetime. Wows for this, and a wow for that. And my first hearing of this particular activity tonight, I heard about it, and I saw who was being initiated in a sense. And what did I say right off? Wow, that is great. And I'm saying that here at this particular moment as I share some thoughts about Tim. My first impression in hearing about Tim being coming to the tournament. Take a look at that. That is a Hall of Fame picture. Tim is, wow, that's not bad. I didn't realize you were such a good-looking guy. Am I wrong in thinking that? Well, Tim's being inducted tonight. When I first heard that, what did I do? What did I say?
Wow.
Wow. Man, to think here. Tim Worrell becoming a Biola Hall of Famer for 2013. My reaction was that wow, but something with that wow. It's TNT time. Todd, Todd, the older brother, was inducted last year in the first presentation of this particular ceremony. 50-some years of Biola baseball. And lo and behold, one person is chosen, number one, last year, first time, Todd Worrell. Then lo and behold, coming up on that, the second year, Tim is the second inductee from the Biola baseball program. And what happens there? What happens there? Well, in a sense, since you are the little brother, Tim, I guess you had to wait a year for your turn. I'm 1,000%. And if you want it to be higher than that, I will put it 1,000,000 times % behind this selection. And we'll share with you my reasons. But first, in the beginning, I give you my wife.
I just wanted to share a couple minutes, a conversation that I had with Tim over 20 years ago. Now, I didn't coach Tim, but he was a student in the physical education major, so I got to know him there. Although being a student wasn't his first love, I always knew that he's going to make it in baseball no matter what. But in both areas, he was always a delight. But this conversation, I don't even know if he remembers. But it took place, as I mentioned, over 20 years ago. He and Misty were recently married. They were married while he was in AAA Las Vegas. And then the following year, he gets called up to the San Diego Padres. And Tim called the house, not to talk to me, but to talk to Charlie. But he wasn't there, so he got me. And it was such a delightful conversation, and one I look back on with smiles over these years. He had some concerns about family, and so I want to relate this conversation in a way that I think he will appreciate. It will show humor, and it will also tell you a little bit about their family. First, he asked me, and it was really kind of surprising. There's no baseball involved. He just said, how do young couples afford to live in San Diego? Now, remember, he's just gotten called up to the majors, and I'm going, in a very professorial way, Tim, I don't really know, but there are a lot of young couples that live in San Diego. And he never did figure out that the housing market situation down there, but moved to Phoenix, Arizona, where they live and where they continue to live. There were many reasons for that move, and it's worked out great for them. The second question he had for me was, how do young couples afford to have children? And I go, well, I don't know, Tim, but a lot of young couples have children. And it's an opportunity to share what a wonderful family they have. Since that time, they have 6 sons. And yes, I did want to say that he did figure that one out. And they range in age from 4 years up to 18 years. So Tim, thank you for that conversation. And thank you for the memories that you have given us. We have thoroughly enjoyed your athletic career. I used to call Charlie when I'd see you pitching on the TV and he wasn't watching. I'd say, Charlie, get up here, Tim's pitching. And so we'd always watch you, and thank you for that. And by the way, you know, the things worked out pretty well with your marriage, your housing, your family. So I think I did a pretty good job in answering your questions. So if you have any more, you know my number.
Wow. Timothy, your brother and several of your former Biola teammates shared with me their congratulations for your Hall of Fame induction, as well as thoughts concerning your Biola and professional baseball career. Let me share those thoughts with you. Todd, your older brother, expressed, I'm proud of my little brother and his 14 years in the majors. His performances started in AAA League in Las Vegas, where he pitched a no-hitter. How come I didn't know that until now? Then he moved into the majors where he was a setup man. He was at his best up through the 2002 World Series against the Anaheim Angels. He was a self-made pitcher who was excellent at spotting his pitches. The pitches would move, they'd break, they'd float, and they'd pass right by the batter. Tim's all-star performances in high school and college prepared him well for his professional career. I'm very proud of him and his accomplishments. Fred Speck wrote, Tim was a person who was on his way to the pros, and for a short period of time, we got to share the field with someone who was destined to make it to the top of the game. Tim's brother had already made it, and we all got to share in the excitement of what Todd had accomplished, and then we got to share in the excitement of what Tim was about to accomplish. I remember the scouts and all of us doing our best to maybe impress ever so slightly and maybe steal a little thunder from the player they were there to see, Tim. I think Tim provided inspiration for all of us who dreamed of playing at a high level. Congratulations on the Biola Hall of Fame recognition, and thanks for being a great friend through the years. Well done on a great career. Gary Warner said, if Tim had that changeup when he played at Biola, no one would have touched him. I have vivid memories of our old crummy batting cage, completely surrounded by scouts. Tim would be chucking fastball after fastball, wearing out my hand. Once he got on the mound, there were 10 radar guns pointing out to him from behind our backstop. It was amazing. What a thrill for me to watch and catch a future major leaguer. That was the closest I ever got to getting in the show. Thanks, Timmy, for all the great memories. Bob Keller remarked, I remember Tim as a pitcher who knew he was going to be a professional. He knew his destiny, and he was right. At times when the game was not good to him, he would always stay the course and bounce back. He figured out how to last long in what sometimes can be a cruel and yet rewarding profession. I have much respect for the way Tim handled a great career. I'm positive he took the ball many times for his team, competing when his body or arm wanted a day off. His arm was a lifeline to his profession, and now he can impart his experience to others as a rehab pitching coach with the Padres. Congratulations to Tim, Misty, and the family. Now it's my time to say a few things about Tim. Tim was a strikeout master. You read the bulletin there, and that says the same thing. He excelled on the mound at Biola, and during his 14th season playing Major League Baseball. Tim played for the Biola Eagles from 1986 to 1990. In his final season, he finished 7th in the NAIA with a 10.65 strikeouts per game. In that 99 season, he went 9-5 with a 3.48 ERA with 147 strikeouts along the way. Tim made the first team All-District and was voted Biola's most valuable player along with Bob Keller. Now, when you take a look at the Biola College baseball team markings, Tim is ranked number 1, most strikeouts, 147, 1990. He's ranked number 3, most batters faced, 573, 1990. He's ranked number 5, most innings pitched, 131, 1990. He's ranked number 5, most complete games, 5, 1989. I say, wow. I didn't know that. And after not looking at the books year in and year out, you know, those years go by fast. They go by too fast. And there are some times that I can't remember if today was yesterday or if today is tomorrow. That short-term memory is causing a few problems. After his career at Biola, Tim was drafted by San Diego and signed on May 15th, 1990. He made his major league debut June 25th, 1993. He played for 9 different teams over his 14 years of playing in the major leagues. Tim had a career year in 2002 with the Giants, posting a 2.25 ERA over 80 outings and an 8-2 win-loss record. Tim was fortunate to have pitched for the Giants in the 2002 World Series against the Anaheim Angels and experienced many major leaguers never had. And Tim, coming from me to you, after reviewing the game videos of that series, I come to the conclusion that the reason the Giants lost the series was that crazy rally monkey, which gave the Angels an unfair advantage. Do you agree with me? Tim went on to have another special year in 2003 with the Giants, where he finished 4th in the National League with 38 saves. Tim played several more years and retired from playing in 2006. Since retiring, Tim has worked with the Peoria Padres as a rehab pitching coach. And last year he had the opportunity to be the AA pitching coach in San Antonio. Thank you, Tim, for the excitement and the joy you have given me over the years through your life experiences. I just wished I knew them all, and not just the ones that I've come in contact with. I like to know them all, but that time is gone. I am very proud of you, of who you are as a person, and equally proud of your college and professional accomplishments in this great game of baseball, the only game that there is out there in society. Now, may God bless you, Tim, as you continue with your career. It's wide open. Your wife and your kids, bless them. And for all of you out there, I want you to join me in welcoming Tim Worrell back home.
That's your good ear. Well, thank you very much for the introduction. And there's some people here I wasn't expecting. One of them's laughing pretty hard right now. He's actually from Azusa Pacific. And he's laughing because he knows I hate public speaking. He was my youth pastor in junior high, and or was it high school? And we used to do these VBSs out on the Indian reservation in Arizona. And he used to put me up front all the time, and I hated it. So I haven't got much better at it. But you'd think when you can play in front of a lot of people that this would be easier, but it's not. Obviously, I think, it's obvious I'm up here more for what I accomplished after. I wish I had 4 years like you guys had. That's pretty unbelievable. With my baseball. And Charlie was a huge part of starting that. I didn't really get all that at the beginning. Charlie and a couple of the players here, he has a few different ways of doing some things at times. But our practices, for the most part, were traditional. But there were some practices we had where we were all sitting there like going, what are we doing? One in particular was, we had a pretty good shortstop at the time, Craig Jutilla. Remember him, Charlie? And next thing I know, after stretch, Charlie's got the whole team at short. And he's got a video camera behind the mound, and he's videoing us. And he's got the whole team, and he's rolling the ball to our right side. And all he's saying, as everybody feels the ball except for one guy, is no. Nope. And he'd roll it, nope. We must have did this for 30 minutes, at least. Was this before you? Yeah, okay. 30, 40 minutes. Craig Jutilla would come up. Yes. Next guy, no. I mean, we did this forever. So being, the guy I am, I started fielding stuff barehanded and throwing off. A bunch of guys were, but so we get through all this. We go over to G7. It doesn't end there. He doesn't explain what's going on. He takes us over to G7, and we rewatch the video. And he says the same thing. No. And we were watching on video. No. Yes. Come to find out, all of it, do you remember this, Charlie, at all? Was the footwork that you needed to backhand a baseball and be able to throw across the diamond. Now, if we would have been a little smarter, we probably should have figured this out a little earlier. But I've never forgotten that. I mean, ever. And there's other stories like that of how he did things that we questioned at first, but there was always a reason at the end. And one of the things that played big time, and I did it through the minors, I struggled with it when I first got to the big leagues, was his pursuit of perfection. And I mean, you heard him with the wow. And you could throw pitches and he would say wow. And the cool thing about it was it had nothing to do with the end result. And that pursuit of perfection for the sake of the pursuit. Not because if I throw this perfect pitch, I get this guy out. Yes, I want that, I mean, just, it's just kind of like we were talking, you brought up just the pure competition with some of your teammates. Yeah, we want to win, but I want to pursue that perfection. Seems like sometimes we get the results in the way, and you get a little fear-based, and sometimes we don't perform up to our abilities that way. But when we're just out there trying to do the best we can do for that moment and that time, it's pretty interesting. You get pretty consistent. And if I had to put a word on my career, because I'm sure unless you're just a huge Biola Athletic fan, I'm not a household name. But somehow I stumbled into 13 years. And that it was trying to, what you always started out with, that pursuit of perfection in the right sense. Not for the contract, not for the whatever. And that messed me up for a long time, my first couple of years in the big leagues, because you have such this opportunity and you don't want to miss it. And the next thing you know, I was hurt too at the very beginning. And so you start, I can remember games trying to be 4-1 on one pitch. Or I'd have a runner on second and he can't score. She can't be 4-1 if guys are scoring. And then not only would he score, but 3 more would score and you'd be 1-4. So, through a lot of different circumstances, a lot of the stuff you taught me here at Biola came into play. One other quick one that's kind of a funny note is he used to make me chart my games before I would pitch them the night before. And at that time, there was I didn't even know who the heck I was facing the next day. But now I know, but that wasn't the point. But see, as a 20-year-old kid, I'm sitting there going, this is stupid. I'm sitting in my room, I got this chart, and, sometimes for some of the batters, I'd just chart something out. But some of them, I really thought it out. And I stumbled onto something a little later, Charlie, along those lines that made me think about you having me chart those games. And I started in Chicago after I got released, and I ran off a pretty good run of games, but I started to stumble up top first. I was getting by, but I was barely sneaking by. So I sat in the video room, my family was gone, I was by myself. They were in Arizona, I was by myself. And I was just watching, and I don't know why I did this, but I just popped in my tape of the first 14 appearances, and I was just watching it. And a coach came in and he was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I don't know. But off of that, I really stumbled on to kind of like what you were having me do with charting those games. And that was just watching yourself succeed. Those of you who know baseball, it's not a real friendly game for results. A 500 pitcher's like unbelievable, and hitting 300, you're going to the Hall of Fame. So I thought back on that, you having me chart those games and just seeing yourself succeed. I try to instill that in the kids I work with now because our video equipment is off the charts. Kids can do unbelievable things, and then you pop in the video and you can pick them apart. And I always try to encourage the kids to, after we're done with the video session, watch yourself doing it right, because that's the thing you need to take out there. And Charlie, I want to say thank you for instilling those things in me. The few other people, I should have said before I even started on Charlie, was I liked your analogy of the iceberg, because I think back on all the years and all the coaches, and it's unbelievable. I'm a part of every single one of them. I took a piece from every single one of the guys. A few of them I took what not to do, but for the most part, you learn something. You're always learning something. And it's pretty amazing to look back on 14 years or 13, somewhere in there, and think about all the people that have touched your lives. And that's just on the field, not let alone just your life coming through baseball and the struggles. I did want to bring up my parents, and the couple things that stuck out to me from my parents was with my dad was nothing was impossible ever, and I really think it's that generation. Our generation wants to think stuff out, and I think we outthink ourselves sometime. And I grew up working for my dad, general contractor, small time here in Southern Cal. And one of the stories he told, well, he told it, but along the lines of nothing's impossible, was we had a friend that had a lot that needs to be cleared. And they had this huge stump, and no one could get it off the yard without pulling in some big old equipment. And my dad pulled by there on a Monday with me in the car, looked at it, sized it up, and then left. That Saturday, I couldn't be there, I was playing ball. That Saturday, he showed back up with a little pickup, a tow dolly for a car, you know, the little two-wheel trailers, and a come along and a rope. And he was there like 20 minutes. And after he gets done, he's strapping this thing down, this neighbor comes out from across the street yelling, "No way. No way did I just see that." And my dad's like, so the guy walks all the way over. He goes, "The city was here yesterday with a dump truck, a tractor, and 4 guys. And they couldn't get it." He told them that they had dug a hole and put the truck down in. They got it in the truck, but they couldn't get the truck out of the hole. And they, it was just, and I sat there and thinking back on it, I grew up with that I didn't think twice about that. My dad just did that stuff all the time. But that just instilled a ton about, because my wife can vouch for this, there was many days I wanted to quit. But kept plugging away. The other thing was, along those lines, was you never quit. And a little 7-year-old boy just happened to throw out one day to his mom that piano looked cool. And 10 years later, I got to quit. I was 18, and we had many bouts over this stinking piano. But I played every day, lessons at 7:30 to 8, and I practiced at 7. But that was huge. I think I considered quitting at times for a while, but it never became a total option. You just hung in there and did it. My brother, my brother's 8 years older than me, so there is a huge gap. He let a freshman in high school hang around with him when he would do his off-season workouts. And he basically showed me what I needed to do physically. The lifting, the running. I grew late. So, if a lot of people looked at it, it would probably look like a lot of waste of time. I was still growing when I came here to college. So, I'd like to thank him for letting me tag along. I know he's not here right now, but these were the things that were important when I was thinking about this time. Also, and this is a plus and a minus, he paved the way. The way I'll say it at first is the plus. I had been around the major leagues. I had been in clubhouses. I knew a lot of the guys I was playing against. I wasn't overwhelmed when I walked in, and that was from the fact that he paved the way, which is huge because a lot of kids, it's a little overwhelming when you walk in and don't quite know what to do. Plus, if you've watched it your whole life, you're kind of in awe. But the negative of that is I was Todd's little brother. Even after he retired, I was Todd's little brother. So there was some things there, but I wouldn't change it. I know I brought it up last year because I wrote in a letter. I think the highlight was getting a chance to play against him for 4 years. He was in LA, I was in San Diego, and it was fun. It was a good time. One time we had the chance to. I literally was coming off the field. He was coming on, and so our roles were a little different. Don't usually get a chance to face each other. I will say this. I wasn't planning on this one, but I actually had an instance where I was rooting for my brother and not the team I was on. And I actually got to ask Tony Gwynn about it because his brother, I said, man, this doesn't feel right. But we were in LA playing him. He wasn't having a great year. And we were starting to come back on him. And he was trying to close the game out for him. And we were in last place. So I was like, this doesn't matter. But I started to go up the tunnel because I didn't like what was going on. And Jim Riggleman, the manager, stopped me. And he goes, hey, you're hitting if he goes deep, which going deep means hitting a home run. So now I'm like, great. I'm got a bat and a helmet, and I'm sitting up the tunnel like praying that my brother strikes this guy out, one of my teammates out. Because I'm like, as cool as it would be to face him, I didn't want him to give up a home run. Blood's definitely thicker than water at that point. And it was kind of weird. I had to ask Tony Gwynn and a few other guys if that was okay. Is that okay? Can I, it seems kind of, and Tony was like, heck yeah, I root for my brother all the time when he's up. So even being on the other team. So last but not least, and I saved this one. Because it's going to be tough. And that is my wife. She put up with a lot for 14 years of doing that. Always taking a back seat, and at that time raising 4 kids, dragging them all over. Out of those 14 teams, I spent 14 days in Cleveland after we had just moved. I know you remember that. We had just moved to Detroit. Things weren't working out. And I asked to be traded, and they traded me to Cleveland. And they let me move all my stuff, which involved her and kids and trailers and all the junk. And they had to make a business move, and they wanted me to go to AAA. I had some say, so I said no. And they traded me to Oakland. And, she just was concerned with me. And here she is. She got to pack it all up. And she did that. She did that all the years, and she took care of our kids and did an outstanding job. And it would have been impossible to do it without you. So thank you. And thank you to Biola for remembering not a household name in a Hall of Fame. This is the first time, and I've had any experience like this. And I appreciate it, and I'm very honored. Thank you, Dave, and the athletic department for having me in your Hall of Fame. Thank you.
You forgot something, Tim. Well, it's late. I'll try to be brief. I first of all want to recognize and thank a couple of people who helped put this event on. One of them isn't here, Heather Foff, but she was very involved. Also, Hillary Larkins. Hillary's back there. Hillary, would you just wave or stand or something? Thank you, Hillary. Thank you so much for your work. And Terry Pixler is part of the athletic department. Terry was also involved. Thank you. Many of you may not know this, but I had the privilege of starting my Biola career 36 years ago working in athletics. I was a sports information director. I was here when Charlie was coaching. I was here when Connie was coaching, and Matt was the wrestling coach, and Dee Henry was the tennis coach, and Dave came a year later as a basketball coach. So I actually had a chance as a first year sports information director to see Jim wrestle. And, you know, Neil Morgan's our new SID, his first year at Biola. Imagine seeing a champion just before your eyes. And wrestling was really big back then. And what Jim accomplished was one of the most outstanding accomplishments of any Biola student at that time. It was just a wonderful time to see that happening and to experience that. You know, I was thinking, what do we learn from these three athletes tonight that we've honored? Probably a lot of things, but what came to me was dedication and tenacity, each one of them in their own way. I mean, Tim played, as you've heard, for 9 teams over, and I checked it on Wikipedia, it's 14 years. So, but, you know, imagine moving from one team to the next, and I'm sure there were times when he felt like, no more of this, and I'm not doing this anymore. But he kept working at his game. He kept demonstrating his value to new teams, and by the time he was done, he'd had 14 years in the major leagues, something that very few people could say. Dedication and tenacity. What about Jim? He must have worked extremely hard to be a wrestler. I don't know, we were talking about this at dinner tonight. You know, I was one of those non-athletes, but you know, in high school, every 8 weeks, you take a different sport. And it's like 1 minute of wrestling just about did me in. Any of you guys who did wrestling but weren't wrestlers, I mean, it is just insane. And, you know, I'll never forget how exhausting wrestling was. And it's a sport that requires the highest energy every moment, or you can lose just like that. For 8 or 9 minutes, I guess, is at that time is how long those matches were. So, you know, that is, what other sport is like that, where it is nonstop? Every second you have to be on like that. So that is tenacity and dedication. And then finally, what about Natasha? I'm sorry, I'll probably call you Natasha instead of Natasha. But 6 consecutive national championships. She was the most valuable female athlete. And that's not for just excelling in one sport. That's like, you know, that 5 and 7 sport event, and like Jonathan was saying, also participating in a number of other events just to help the team. And so that also is tenacity and dedication. And in fact, even today, she's demonstrating that, because she works every day like the rest of us, and then she goes out on the track as she pursues a dream to make the Canadian Olympic team in 2016. So all 3 of these individuals deserve our admiration, and I think they are role models to us for not giving up, for being dedicated. And these 3 are just a part of the Biola legacy. We have a rich tradition in intercollegiate athletics. Many of you have been a part of that tradition, either as a spectator or as a participant. And we've had great success on the field. But we've also had success, as was noted tonight, in the classroom. Over the last 4 years, we have averaged 16 of our teams being scholar teams in the NAIA, which requires that the team cumulative GPA be at least 3.0. 16 teams out of our 19 teams that we have, including indoor and outdoor track. I think it's probably the highest in the NAIA if you combine those 4 years. We're so consistent in the classroom. But most importantly, Biola continues its tradition of emphasizing spiritual growth and maturity, character development, confidence, concern for community, and teamwork. As I close, I want to encourage you that Biola Athletics continues to be strong. And like the university as a whole, I believe its best days are ahead. You've heard about our success this year. We're 20-2 already, plus a couple of wins in cross country. And that's due in a great deal because of our coaches. And many of them are here tonight. And they need to be recognized. So I'm going to call out their names and their sport. Hold your applause. But then we'll thank them at the end of this so that you can see many of our current coaches. Dee Henry, women's tennis. Hank Woodrum, go ahead and stand and remain standing. Hank Woodrum, golf, men and women's golf. Todd Elkins, men and women's soccer, 2 wins today, by the way. Lori Coleman, softball. Jay Sullinger, baseball. Dave Holmquist, basketball. Jonathan Zimmerman, cross country and track and field. Bethany Miller, women's basketball. Eddie Shepard, men and women's swimming. I don't think Aaron Seltzer's here tonight. Did I miss any of our current coaches? You guys, thank you for all you do for our current athletes. Just some things to let you know about our athletic program, some things we've been doing recently to upgrade it and improve it. 2 of our part-time positions for the last several years have become full-time. One is Jay Sullinger, our baseball coach, and then we've taken a couple of part-time positions, and Todd Elkins is now the full-time coach for our men and women's soccer. And we just feel like having full-time coaches here to be with our athletes on a more consistent basis is what we needed. And so we're thrilled to have them in those 2 full-time positions. Speaking of baseball, our baseball outfield has been completely redone this year. And I believe for the first time ever, we now have a warning track in our outfield. So I don't know if we had that before. At least we haven't had it for a long time. And now we have a warning track, so that's a good thing. Nearly $400,000 was spent last year to upgrade our softball field. And it's now, we've gone from admittedly probably the worst field in the conference to one of the best fields in the conference. And this year we're going to be adding batting cages. So we're really excited about the softball facility. We've gotten more funding to support our assistant coaches and their salaries, so we're taking care of them better. We have new financial aid policies that are more flexible for our student athletes. Next, on Monday, we're going to host our 35th annual golf tournament to raise money for athletics. So we're just excited about what's going on in athletics today and what the future holds. And we're thankful for your participation tonight, for your support of our teams, of our athletes, your financial contributions, your encouragement, just all you do for Biola Athletics. And we hope you'll do that. So Tim, Natasha, and Jim, congratulations again. And you are worthy members of the Biola Hall of Fame.